Protect your privacy online with the best VPN for gaming, ExpressVPN, and visit expressvpn.com/GhillieMaster, linked in the description, to find out how you can get 3 months free. With the preface of my last video discussing the current state of the explosive cannons and how they are objectively more powerful than any other weapon and just unhealthy for the online environment of GTA, you might have guessed this video is coming. But today I bring you my new concept of a balanced Hydra, with some modifications that give it quite a big change in terms of where it stands in the meta in the game, while at the same time creating a much healthier jet that is still fun to play with. As we always do with this series, let's discuss where the Hydra went wrong. The explosive cannons are busted. If you want a much more detailed explanation as to why that is, I will leave a link to a video I posted on Monday detailing exactly that. Aside from that though, the Hydra just lacks identity. You can pretty much define the Hydra as a copy of the laser, except with worse handling and the ability to take off like a helicopter, which at the time of release was a cool concept, but now it's just old and boring. There's really no situation where you would go, oh, let me grab a Hydra for that would be perfect, because the laser is a better dogfighter and ground attack plane in its current state, and in VTOL mode, it's just clunky and useless for anything aside from landing and taking off, which may have been their design choice, but it's not exactly a fun one in my opinion. In order to address those issues, I essentially completely repurposed and revamped the weapons to closely resemble what the Hydra was 17 years ago. For the newer fans of the GTA series, the Hydra was not a new jet with GTA 5. It was first added to the GTA universe in 2004's GTA San Andreas, and it featured vastly different weaponry than its current version in GTA Online has. In San Andreas, it's equipped with double free-fire missiles that come out of each side of the vehicle simultaneously, and a single-fire homing missile that seems to have a faster travel time than the free-fire missiles. So then I thought to myself, let's recreate that for the GTA 5 Hydra. And with that being said, the changes that are going to be shown off in this video are: number 1, the explosive cannons are completely scrapped, and I mean the Hydra no longer has a machine gun on it at all. The main guns on the Hydra will now be the double-fire free-fire rockets, just like in GTA San Andreas. Then for its secondary weapons, it's given a powerful homing missile that has slightly increased speed and increased tracking to match the Oppressor Mark II missile tracking. However, the drawbacks are that you cannot free-fire this missile, so it only fires when fully locked onto a target, and the lock-on time for the missile would be increased to about 2/3 of what the Chernobog rocket lock-on time is. So you have to track your target for some time in order to be able to fire these. Unfortunately, I am unable to showcase the drawbacks or the increased tracking in-game because I don't think there's a way for me to edit that stuff with the files that I have access to, but that is what the concept for it is. And aside from the weapons, the Hydra will be receiving a VTOL handling buff intended to allow more usability in the VTOL mode, and the armor will be slightly increased so that it can tank more explosive rounds while still being vulnerable to rockets. The way I recreated the dual missile design was by editing the spaced rocket weapon. This is normally a single fire homing missile with a cooldown, so a few changes had to be made here. First, in the audio department, it now has the sound of the Hunter Barrage missile. The reload times were heavily modified. They were all changed to -1 so that there's no cooldown after firing 2 missiles. The time between shots value was changed from 2 to 0.650, which is how often you will be able to fire the dual missiles. And the alternate wait time was gotten rid of completely, which is the most important change because just that one change alone is what allows the missiles to shoot simultaneously. Then, in order to make it free fire only, I edited the flags and got rid of the homing and the homing toggle ones. And one last change, the explosion of the missile. Now, I had tested using the barrage missile explosion radius for the double rockets, but what I noticed is that the normal rocket explosion animation and the sound of the explosion just created a lot of visual and audible clutter. It just wasn't very pleasant to see or hear, so we're using the grenade explosion tag, which is much quieter and creates a lot less visual clutter on the screen. And the finished product here is a lot of fun, more fun than the cannons were in my opinion, with another positive being that they are much more balanced than the cannons are. Let's take a look at the gameplay, shall we? Now for the homing missiles, these simply replace the laser cannons that were coded to the Hydra, but it's a different type of rocket they were editing called the plane rocket. This one required much less changes because most of the properties are remaining the same, like the reload time and the rate of fire. One thing that we are changing though is going to be the homing toggle so that you can't free aim them, so the homing toggle flag was removed. The only other difference here is the launch speed, which was up from 1500 to 4000, which looks like a lot on paper, but it doesn't look that much faster in game. As I mentioned earlier, the gameplay you're about to see doesn't include all the concepts I wanted to have just because I'm limited as to what I can do here. The homing missiles really shouldn't be able to fire until they full lock on, and the tracking should be much better too. And now we have the handling changes, which for the most part are only for the VTOL mode, but there's a couple that might affect the regular flight just a tad. For starters, I lowered the mass from 8,000 to 7,000 to make it feel a bit less like a boat in the air. The wind multiplier was cut in half, so you'll see less turbulence when flying it. And then for the VTOL handling specifically, I increased the thrust from 1.3 to 1.9, and this allows the jet to increase its altitude faster while in hover mode, and also to change directions in the air a little bit faster. In VTOL mode only though, this doesn't affect the regular handling. But the main change to VTOL handling is in the auto stabilization. These two values right here dictate how far you can angle the jet downward and upward while in the VTOL mode. And in the game right now, the reason it's so hard to do anything in VTOL mode is because you can't really aim downwards to hit anything, so that got lowered a lot from 2.5 to 1.1. Here are a couple of handling comparisons for the current Hydra to the Hydra 2.0. You can really feel the difference with that lowered auto stabilization. It just makes it so much easier to hit targets on the ground and actually aim downward. And it also kind of gives it a bit more agility in the air too, like you can dodge missiles with this now. The final change made to the Hydra was the armor. The weapon damage and engine damage multipliers went from 0.5 and 1.5 to 0.250 and 1 respectively. Normally the Hydra will blow up from just 2 explosive rounds in the live game. This change brings it up to 5 explosive rounds to blow up. It will also be more resistant to regular bullets, so it won't smoke as easily when being shot when trying to use it in VTOL mode, for instance. But there you have it, the Hydra 2.0. And I think this would be a much healthier version of the vehicle, and it would just give it uses that it didn't have before, and just really stand out compared to what we have now. The missiles, if added the way I described, could be a very good counter for Oppressor Mark IIs. I know a lot of people like to use the explosive cannons to take out Mark IIs, so with those being gone, these would still be good at destroying oppressors while at the same time not being ridiculous against people on the ground. The dual missiles would serve that job of attacking things on the ground, again while not being as ridiculous as the cannons are, but they still do some damage and it pays homage to a classic entry in the franchise. But let me know what you guys think about the Hydra balance in the comment section. Would you like it if this came into the game? And maybe not even for a Hydra balance, but maybe like on an entirely other jet completely. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe to my channel for more guide and PvP related content. Huge thank you to all my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.